What's up, J Fusion fans, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about Ultraman Z. So this is going to be a review of the show, unlike how I would do reviews of superhero time, Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. I am going to review Ultraman Z as a show, and you notice that I am doing this now that the show is already halfway done. So I'm basically going to talk about everything, that I think about the show thus far. Before we continue on, I would like to remind everyone, by the way, that this video is not intended for viewers under 13 and possible spoiler alerts, especially for those who haven't even seen Ultraman Z thus far. Just to be sure. Now that's out of the way, let's go with the video. So I would like to start off with the first thing I noticed about Ultraman Z, especially, even before the show began, I already noticed this about the show. So, as you may know, especially to those who have seen the show, by the way, uh, is that there is a heavy use of mecha in the show. And it's actually an interesting deviation from the traditional uh, specialized organization or armed task force, that fights kaiju. Traditionally, we would see like specialized jets that fight the kaiju and such, but now we are focusing on giant robots and giant robots alone, actually. The storage, which is the group that fights kaiju in this show, so they are exclusively using mecha that are actually based on classic kaiju. And machines that fight giant monsters, let alone giant robots, is something that the show has not featured for quite some time. I remember the last Ultraman show that I saw with the specialized vehicles for fighting giant monsters would be Ultraman X, if I remember correctly. So the rest of the shows, like in between X and Z, they don't have these specialized machines that fight giant monsters. Let's say, for example, Ultraman Geed and Ultraman Taiga, for example, there are specialized groups that help fight the kaiju, but they don't have specialized weapons or, again, machines, especially that fight these giant monsters. They are more like specialized police. They do have like special weapons to fight against the human-sized monsters, but when it comes to the giants, they don't have anything, and they are left to rely on the Ultraman exclusively to take care of the giant monsters. And in Ultraman Rube, there's actually no special group that fights against uh, monsters. There's no group at all. It's just the Ultraman versus the kaiju. So there's that. Now, again, with storage, we do see them, capable of fighting against the monsters. And in fact, with the as the show progresses, we are introduced to uh, increasingly more powerful mechs that can actually stand alone against the giant monsters. Now, machines that can actually defeat the giant monsters on their own without the help of Ultraman is a very rare occurrence. Now, some of the mechs that I remember that are capable of doing this, I believe were in Ultraman Mebius. So, like the Gun Phoenix, So the Gunwingers combined, they can unleash a powerful attack created from specium energy, which is the same type of energy that Ultraman used for his specium beam. So again, mechs that are capable of fighting and even defeating monsters is a rare occurrence. So speaking of mechs, this kind of reminds me of Ultraman Dyna. Now there is one episode, especially this was actually a dream sequence, but like Super Guts had a specialized robot that fought alongside Ultraman Dyna. In terms of appearance, I think I would prefer something like that in terms of looks, because well, again, sure, the mechs of storage are quite powerful, but they are kind of based on, again, classic kaiju. So Wingdom and Sevenger, especially. So they were capsule monsters used by Ultraman Leo, I believe. Ultra 7, Ultraman Leo, they used capsule monsters to assist them in battle. So there's that, but Ultraman Dyna's robot, I believe its name was Maximilian or something. If I remember, it had a European sounding name. So it did look like a mecha. Well, of course, it did not look like a kaiju. But again, I would have wanted to see something like that. But nonetheless, the mechs that Storage use are very powerful. In the broadest sense, because again they are actually able to, you know, withstand attacks from monsters, and in some cases, given the right conditions, they are actually capable of finishing off the enemies. Again, especially with the introduction of the King Joe storage custom, which is so powerful you probably wouldn't even need Ultraman Z to help you. So that's actually a very nice aspect of the show. Now, going to Ultraman Z himself, we do see that he has, his actual base form, without depending on the Ultra medals. So we do see it in the first episode in action, but after being defeated and he has to, form a bond with Haruki, he kind of became dependent on the Ultra medals in order to fight monsters. So this original base form for Ultraman Z does appear occasionally in battle, especially when he and Haruki transform to fight human-sized aliens. So this form, well, capable of combat, can only be sustained for 50 seconds, not even 1 minute. So if you were Haruki and you were forced to fight in that form, you would probably have to really think about the situation and use it only when extremely necessary. So good luck with that, I would say. Especially if you're up against a very tough monster. Uh, you can only keep it for like 50 seconds, and I don't think you'd be able to transform again right away after that. So you probably would need to use it so sparingly. But nonetheless, going back to Ultraman Z and fighting giant monsters, so he is again dependent on the Ultra medals to transform and fight. Now, of course, we have his kind of standard form when he transforms, which is the Alpha Edge. Using the Ultra medals of Ultra 7, Ultraman Leo, and Ultraman Zero, Z transforms into the quick and highly maneuverable Alpha Edge, which also uses a lot of martial arts techniques, considering that, well, especially Ultraman Leo and Ultraman Zero, they are highly trained martial artists. And of course, Haruki himself practices karate. So, this would be their default form, or at least the one that's closest to Haruki's actual fighting style. Now, Ultraman Z Alpha Edge looks good, but to me, it's too reminiscent of Ultraman Zero. Again, with the twin sluggers on his head, the blue and red combination. Of course, there are obviously a lot of differences, but still, because you're using Ultraman Zero, it's still too reminiscent of Ultraman Zero. Now, Zed himself kind of tries to copy Ultraman Zero, especially in terms of his personality, which, again, I don't like because he becomes too much like Zero, or again, he tries to become like Zero, and Zed loses character on his own. So, I kind of don't like Alpha Edge in that regard. But nonetheless, it's very useful for most situations. But yeah, it's it's too reminiscent of Zero. It's not bad, just too reminiscent of Zero. So moving on to the next form, which is Beta Smash, which is almost a purely red form for Ultraman Z. So using the powers of Ultraman, Ultraman Ace, and Ultraman Taro. So this is the strength type form, which uses a lot of grappling and strong strikes. Although he is also able to use other, energy-based techniques. He can even use the Zestium Ray, which is Ultraman Z's personal finisher. He does have, other energy-based attacks like a slashing beam attack based from Ultraman Ace. So there's that. There's still some sort of versatility in there. But speaking of versatility, this is my favorite form of all, Gamma Future. So Gamma Future is summoned by using the Tiga, Dyna, and Gaia Ultra medals. Now, as a 90s kid growing up, I have watched Ultraman, Tiga, Dyna, and Gaia. So, uh, definitely, based on the nostalgia factor alone, I will have a bias towards this one. However, bias aside, towards the, you know, uh, nostalgia aside, this is my favorite form by looks alone. This form, Gamma Future, is so visually appealing with its nice combination of the red and violet, and even the gold armor on his chest. It looks like a power up in and of itself. So we haven't talked about the power up, by the way, which is coming soon. So of all the three forms of Ultraman Z thus far, of course, excluding the actual base form, uh, if I were to transform into Ultraman Z and stick with only one power up or one form for the entirety of the show, I would stick with Gamma Future. It does a lot more than it looks. So while Alpha Edge is basically your overall, like general combat type, uh, probably focusing on speed. Beta Smash focuses on raw physical power at the cost of speed. Gamma Future focuses on beam and energy manipulation and can even cast illusions of Tiga, Dyna, and Gaia to help you in battle. So it also is the most stylish in terms of fighting style. So rather than, go all out, it is actually a bit more on the defensive side, But again, it's more calculated and well thought than just go in, strike the enemy as fast as you can or as hard as you can. But uh, definitely a very intelligent fighting style. And again, with the energy manipulation, you don't need to get too close to the enemy. So in terms of versatility, this is the most versatile form I have seen, and I will definitely choose it over the power up any day. Now, moving to the characters, so our protagonist, Haruki Natsukawa, rather. Uh, well, he is one of those hot-blooded heroes, so he is the type of hero to tend to rush into battle rather than think. Of course, he is a trained martial artist, so he knows when to attack. But again, his more passionate personality can lead him to rash decisions, I would see. Now, in the recent episodes, he saw when he fought Red King, he realized something. So, Red King was actually just trying to protect its family. So, after defeating Red King and realizing what he had done, Haruki had second thoughts. Like, was I really right in doing that? If I were Haruki, I would have that dilemma too. But, of course, if we rationalize things, sure, we fight to protect our own, we fight to protect other human beings, but monsters like Red King, uh, that are just trying to survive, really, and maybe their activity is our fault. Are we really right in trying to exterminate them? So, Haruki has his own moral dilemma. Sure, he has the responsibility to fight and protect Earth, but considering what he has done, you know, he does have a moral compass, which I think makes for a great Ultraman. You're not just fighting, you're a monster, I will erase you. You're automatically a threat, you know, uh, except for the Ultraman, because the Ultraman gave you the power. So, yeah, Ultraman, not a threat, but everything else, like every other kaiju, is a threat. So Haruki doesn't think that way. So because of his moral compass, he actually is capable of showing a lot of compassion. And of course, we can see that in Ultraman, not all monsters are evil. So based on what happened, Red King wasn't really evil. It was just trying to survive. It's just like any other animal. And Haruki destroying one of the Red Kings made him question himself as a hero, basically. Like, sure, I have fought to protect mankind, other humans, but what about the other beings that live on Earth as well? You know, so he does show signs of being a good person in general, so which is what I like about him. So moving on to the other characters of the show, so we have the captain of storage, Shota Hebikura, who, well, is no surprise, Juggler's juggler as well. When uh, actor Takaya Aoyanagi was announced to return to the Ultraman franchise, so there was already speculation that he would actually be Juggler's juggler, and by episode 1, well, he drops everything. So yes, he kind of, well, we don't see the revelation, but the way he suddenly changes uh, his behavior. So like he is the stern, serious captain of storage, but while nobody is looking, his personality turns dark, and even his hair changes. His hairstyle changes. You know, Juglus Juggler is back. Right from episode 1, no spoiler there, really, Juglus Juggler is back. And this is compounded on by the fact that, yes, he does transform into Juglus Juggler sometimes. And when Ultraman G actually appears in this universe, he does recognize Juglus Juggler, and Juglus Juggler recognizes Jeed. So, yes, he is the same Juglus Juggler that appeared in Ultraman Orb. There's that. But what's interesting is that the Juglus Juggler, aka Captain Hebikura, he's actually playing a more of an anti-hero role. Sure, he still acts, like dark and brooding at times. He's plotting something all the time, but nonetheless, he has actually helped Haruki more times than you would think, surprisingly. So he does provide support, albeit in a cryptic, dark way sometimes. But again, nonetheless, he actually fights on our side. Well, considering that we are siding with the good guys, so he actually fights for us. Which is interesting. So he did change his way. So he's not really evil anymore, though he still has dark based powers. But nonetheless, how he uses it is actually quite interesting. So we do have two other members of Storage, which are both female. So we have Yoko and Yuka. So Yoko is like the strong woman of the two, and she is one of the other pilots of Storage. Of course, the other one being Haruki, and she actually pilots the more powerful mechs. So initially, yes, we do see Haruki piloting Seven Ger, but when Wingdom is introduced, uh, Yoko pilots Wingdom while Haruki sticks with Seven Ger. And when King Joe Storage Custom is introduced, Yoko becomes the main pilot of King Storage Custom, and Haruki is kind of promoted to piloting the Windom. So you have a strong female character balanced by a goofier female character, which is Yuka. So she is the scientist of the group. Uh, she does get she does get to be a bit stronger, especially when Yoko kind of helps her. But uh, again, it's interesting to see the dynamic between the two females of the group. So uh, what else? So you do have the captain of storage, like the commander of storage, rather. He doesn't really do much rather than command, but I guess he's more of a minor character then. But what I'm interested in is, who I'm interested in is the chief engineer of storage. So of course uh, Mr. Inaba, so Chief Engineer Inaba, he is a very interesting character. He can show us that he is able to fight, like he was able to take down Haruki in a sparring session. So despite his more advanced age, he can show that he's working hard as a mechanic and actually is quite a motivator. So like he kind of helps you fight, but he is in the background providing support while controlling all the engineers in storage. So engineer Inaba is interesting in his own right. I would like to see a more focused episode on him. And yeah, uh, so far the story, again, it's your typical Ultraman story, yeah, with uh, kaiju's every week. Nothing special, but you probably still would watch it for the action, I guess. So overall, Ultraman Z is very enjoyable. Of course, I am looking forward to seeing the later half of the show and what kind of events would unfold. So overall, I would give Ultraman Z a 4 out of 5 so far. Now, it is interesting. I do love the concept of giant robots fighting giant monsters in Ultraman. Gamma Future is my favorite form, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But for me, the story is still your general Ultraman plot. So yeah, again, it's good. Would I recommend it to you if you haven't seen it? Well, I would say just go and check it out for yourself and see if you would enjoy it. So that's kind of a broad way to put it. But anyways, that's how I think about the show. So anyway, thank you so much guys for watching. Please do leave a like, comment, share this video, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JE Fusion. This has been Philip. Now I am probably going off to betray some fools out there. Am I really a traitor? Find out soon.